the 14th of October 1943, over Schweinfurt, Germany. Flak flowers blacken the sky at 26,000 feet as B-17G formations grind east in rigid boxes, prop tips scything air that tastes like cordite and cold metal. Inside one fortress, the co-pilot calls out engine temperatures, while the pilot, Captain Tom Hale of the 92nd Bomb Group, peers through a canopy rimmed with frost. The interphone is a braid of voices. Bandits 11 o'clock, high. And then the left wing of the lead ship flashes with tracer fire. A Messerschmitt Bf-109 slices through the formation. A grey-green dart that vanishes in the contrail haze as a gunner shouts, I hit him, and chokes mid-sentence when another swarm climbs into the sun. You can feel the problem through Hale's white-knuckled grip. The bombers are alone too long. Today, the 8th Air Force is striking the ball-bearing plants at Schweinfurt for the second time in 3 months, convinced that if they hammer this one-node bearings for everything from tanks to fighters, the Reich will seize up. But the Luftwaffe has stalked the route and measured the gaps. P-47 Thunderbolts and P-38 Lightnings escort as far as they dare, then peel away, fuel needles settling into the red, radios wishing the forts good luck. Beyond that point, the B-17 seconds and B-24 seconds are on their own for the hardest hour of the mission, the black hole, crews call it, when German controllers vector in waves of Bf-109 seconds and FW-190 seconds to carve at the bomber stream from head-on and from above. Hale watches a fortress ahead bloom into a flame ball that leaves only ash snow and tumbling aluminum. His navigator folds himself over the chart table, calculating winds aloft and time on target while the bombardier checks the Norden against the city's rail yard, a spiderweb of lines converging on the river. Another call, brake left, and the formation strains as one. The airframe moans. Fighters rake past, and the radio operator mutters a prayer through bitten lips. They are still 80 miles from target, and the escorts are gone. On the ground, men at Pine Tree and Fighter Command in England read the situation with clenched jaws. They see the claims piles, the missing aircraft tallies, the "did not return" shorthand scribbled along the ops board. They also see the pattern. When escorts are present, losses are tolerable. When they fall away, the Luftwaffe grows fangs. It isn't simply that the bombers need any fighter. They need a fighter that can climb to the fortress's altitude, fight there, and most critically, stay there all the way to target and back. They need range, not on paper, not in a brochure, but in winter skies over Germany with a pilot fighting for breath at 30 below. In a drafty office at North American Aviation in Inglewood, California, engineers have already begun betting their reputations that such a fighter can exist. The airframe is known, a lithe, laminar flow wing thoroughbred born as the NA-73, the P-51. The problem is respiration at altitude. The Allison engine in early Mustangs breathes well down low, it's a racer over the deck, a near-perfect ground attack bird, but it gasps above 20,000 feet. The Luftwaffe owns the stratosphere. Bombers are dying there. If you could force-feed the Mustang cold, thin air compress it, stage it, two-speed it, you might produce a predator that can hunt where the bombers fly. Hale's formation claws out of the flak belt, and the bombardier releases. Bombs tumble, oil smeared and indifferent, toward the grey geometry of Schweinfurt. The turn home is a razor blade, shallows and steeps, men turning green in their masks. The Luftwaffe is waiting. Somewhere far to the west, at Rolls-Royce test bays and Packard's Detroit benches, an engine breathes on the stand, supercharger howl filling the space like a promise. In a few months, the pilots in England will slam throttles forward and the air will answer differently. But today the sky is bare. A Merlin sits naked on a test stand, its two-stage, two-speed supercharger a jeweled clockwork of gears and impellers. Rolls-Royce engineers fuss with temperature probes while an RAF officer watches the gauges, pipe smoke curling against frosted windows. Nearby, a P-51 airframe, an Allison-engined Mustang shipped across the Atlantic squats on its gear, cowling off, a patient awaiting transplant. The idea is simple enough to explain to a politician, but devilish in detail. Bolt Britain's high-altitude heart into America's sleekest fuselage and see if the math becomes music. The Merlin's genius is how it gulps thin air. Its supercharger doesn't just blow, it stages the compression, switching gears so that at 25,000 feet the engine still drinks like it's on a summer airfield at sea level. Early trials at Hucknall with the Mustang X prove the hypothesis. A Mustang with a Merlin climbs like a hawk and holds power where the Allison fades. Inglewood hears the news like a wire strike. North Americans' skunk works before skunk works culture turns white hot. Drawings are rushed. Cowling lines are redrafted to smooth the Merlin bulges. Glycol coolers, ducting, and the brilliant Mustang radiator, its Meredith effect, shoving a shove of thrust back into the airflow, are married to the new plumbing. Across the ocean, Packard licenses the Merlin as the V-1750, productionizing the British masterpiece for Detroit's machine logic. The V-1650, then the -7, become more than numbers in a manual. They become the sound that bomber crews will later call deliverance. Keep the mass low, maintain the center of gravity, give the pilot eyes. A bubble canopy would come in time, but the early P-51 BC cockpit with its high back still grants better visibility than thunderbolts in close. 4. 50 cal Brownings in the wings later. 6 are rigged to converge into a killing cone. Most crucial to the mission profile, hardpoints sprout beneath the wings for 75, and then 108-gallon drop tanks. Range is no longer an aspiration, it is plumbing. At Wright Field and Inglewood, test pilots step to the new ship. The first runway's long takeoff with drop tanks rattling, the first climb through 10, 15, 20,000 feet with the engine still pulling like a locomotive, the first pushover into a high-Mach dive, with the laminar wing slicing air so clean it hums. This is when a project stops being a project and becomes a weapon. The numbers on the flight test cards translate to a pilot's grin. Cruise at 30+ inches, nurse the mixture, lean the burn, and the map opens like a book you were told you couldn't read. Word migrates through mess halls in East Anglia. New Mustangs are coming. Skeptics remember Allison Mustangs scampering over hedgerows, good for strafing trains but not much help to a fortress on a winter run to Bremen. Then a Merlin Mustang drops into a circuit at Debden, squats on its mains, and roll taxis in with its canopy sliding back. Pilots gather, touching the cowling lip as if it were warm bread. A crew chief pats the drop tank like a saddlebag on a Mustang out of Nevada. Somewhere in that small group, a young captain who's lost friends on deep raids does a dead reckoning in his head. He's thinking of Berlin. Behind all of this are names that rarely make the posters. Ed Hawkey coaxing aerodynamics. Kindleberger's kids at North American, pushing schedules that eat weekends. Packard foreman teaching new hires how to blew an engine by feel. Rolls-Royce men passing hard-won metallurgy tricks across the ocean by cable. A transatlantic workshop has formed Britain's brain with America's brawn, and the product is a fighter that does not fear oxygen starvation, it invites it. By early winter of 1943, squadrons receive their first P-51 BCs. They smell of cosmoline and fresh dope. Their data plates say Packard and North American. But what crews see are miles. Miles of hostile air the Luftwaffe believes it owns. That presumption is about to meet a throttle stop, and the wet cough of self-sealing tanks jettisoned over the North Sea. December 1943. Debden, East Anglia. Frost whitens the pierced steel planking as ground crews tug canvas from wings. Captains Don Gentile and John Godfrey of the 4th Fighter Group walk the line, boots clacking, faces red in the wind. The briefing pins a red thread across the map to Bremen. Beside it, a chalk scrawl. Drop tanks. 108 USG paper. Pilots grin at the phrase, paper tanks. They're light, fragile, and perfect. Burn them en route, twist out the jettison, feel the ship surge, then you're clean and armed when the Hun appears. The first deep escort sorties are a classroom without walls. At top of climb, The P-51's Merlin still pulls strongly, manifold pressure steady, the two-stage supercharger answering with a muted whine at altitude where the Allison would have been panting. The formation slides into station above the bomber stream, not tied to the box like a mastiff on a chain, but allowed to wander, to breathe, to hunt. Tactics shift in mid-air. Under General James Doolittle's coming philosophy, escorts won't ride shotgun on the wingtip forever, they'll range ahead and above to slash down on assembling interceptors. But even before the order is inked, pilots sense the new freedom range grants. You can cover the withdrawal, you can come back, you can still be there when they need you most. On the far side of the radio, German controllers notice a new tone in the ether. Jagdgeschwader pilots who know the B-17's altitude bands and straight-on attack geometry now find blue-nosed shadows above them. A rotte of FUW 190 seconds forms up for a head-on pass, and a flight of Mustangs knifes down through sun glare. 50 seconds strobing. A 190 corkscrews, black smoke feathering, and its wingman dives away, eyes wide, mind calculating the one metric that matters: time. How much time are the escorts staying with the bombers? How far are they following the stream in? The answer, too long, is etched in wreckage. In the 357th Fighter Group at Leiston, Lieutenant Clarence Bud Anderson feels it in his right hand, the engine's will to go on. Across in the 352nd at Bodney, George Preddy reads a German brake, shoves the nose, and the Mustang answers with a slewing, gun-barking authority that makes his flight believe in miracles. On the ground, crew chiefs learn the Merlin's moods, the plug fouling, the cold start rituals, the way you can tell a two-stage supercharger gear change by the tremor it sends into your teeth. They safety wire, they gasket, they swear and grin, and light cigarettes with shaking hands after a good landing. Escorting to Bremen and Emden in December becomes Berlin in March. But first come the proofs. Missions where the loss rates bend, where the forts return in greater number, where waist gunners sidelong over their Brownings catch an impossible sight, contrails of friendly fighters still there after the turn, after the bomb run, after the long, cold leg home. A radio call like a lifeline. Little friends, we still have you. God bless. In crew rooms that smell of coffee and Lend-Lease chocolate, bomber boys repeat that line like a charm. The Luftwaffe feels it as a pinch at the throat. The Mustang is not invulnerable. Compressibility in a dive can bite. The 50 seconds can jam. An unlucky hit at the glycol radiator can turn a sleek predator into a glider looking for a field. But in aggregate, the calculus has changed. American industry is stacking engines and props in pyramids. British cleverness is baked into the castings. Pilots are learning how to fight the high war with a machine that wants to be there. You can hear it in the ready room. Targets, once bracketed as beyond escort, are spoken of as tight but doable. The map, once a boundary, is becoming a temptation. And a storm is gathering, one planned not as a single punch but as a sustained beating meant to break bone. The planners call it Operation Argument. The crews will call it something else: Big Week. February 2025, 1944, across the Reich. The week begins with the clatter of mess tins at pre-dawn and the rustle of target folders. Regensburg, Schweinfurt, Brunswick, Leipzig factories that feed the Jagdwaffe. The 8th and 15th Air Forces are going to hit them again and again, day after day, daring the Luftwaffe to rise and be slaughtered. The bombers will take their lumps. The escorts are the point. In the 4th, 352nd, 357th, and 361st Groups, flight leads martial flights into the cold blue. Somewhere above 30,000 feet, the sky goes quiet in that peculiar high-altitude way, like the world is muffled under snow. Drop tanks sputter near dry. A jab of the jettison and they tumble away, spinning down like kicked buckets. Throttles forward. The Merlin's song ascends. What follows is not a joust. It is a hunt in layers, an ecology of contrails. German fighter controllers push their assets hard. Pilots in Bf 109Gs and FDO 190A's climb to slash the bomber stream only to be met by swarms of Mustangs fighting the way the Mustang wants to fight fast, from above, slashing, never lingering, re-climbing. When the Luftwaffe switches to higher cover, P-51 seconds are already there. When they dive to regroup, Mustangs fall with them, herding, punishing. The 50 cal belts AP, API, tracer chew through cowlings and root into wing spars. In cockpits, German aces with victory tallies on their rudders confront a miserable arithmetic. Every loss now hurts twice. Pilots are hard to replace, fuel is tight, new trainees arrive green, thrown into a sky thick with American contrails and gunsmoke. On the ground, at Regensburg and Leipzig, men climb onto factory roofs to watch the sky as if reading their future in cloud streaks. It is. Big Week isn't about wrecking buildings, though plenty burn. It's about forcing the Luftwaffe to rise in daylight and lose the very thing it cannot replace. Experienced men. In the evenings, operations staff at Debden, Bottisham, Leiston and Bodney scribble claims and, more importantly, count bombers home. The line graphs tilt. Losses per 1,000 sorties ebb. Not to zero, never to zero, but downward, day by bloodied day. Radio discipline loosens in the euphoria and terror. You catch the voices. Break! Break! He's on you. Good hit, he's on fire. I'm Winchester, heading home. The Merlin's supercharger gear change thrums in your bones as you drag the sight across a fleeing 190, squeeze, and see the canopy pop. Parachutes blossom like dandelions. Some of those men will fight again. Many will not. Factories can be rebuilt after the war. Men cannot. By week's end, fighter group reputations harden into legend. Don Gentile and John Godfrey become household names to bomber crews. George Preddy's tally climbs with frightening speed. Bud Anderson returns, grinning. Old Crow, ticking and cooling on the line. Ground crews lift each pilot from the wing with a ritual blend of relief and ribbing. A Mustang taxis in with holes you could pass a fist through. The crew chief, exhausted, simply lays a palm on the cowling like a priest blessing a survivor. The signal propagates through the Reich's telephone lines. Daylight in Germany is becoming American. Not all at once, and not without horrific payment, but inexorably. The Mustang is not solely responsible. The Thunderbolt, Lightning, radar, intelligence, and the endless conveyor belt of American industry all shoulder the load. But when bomber crews later try to explain why the winter of 1943 felt like drowning and the spring of 1944 felt like growing gills, they talk about a sound, the unhurried snarl of a two-stage Merlin at altitude and white contrails that never seem to peel away. Still, one proof remains. It is a word that once laughed at Allied pretension, a city whose very name was a dare on the ops board. The 4th of March 1944, over Berlin. The briefing room was quieter than usual, as if the word itself ate sound. The target folders showed assembly plants and rail junctions around the city. The 8th Air Force had promised it would go, and now it would. Over East Anglia, Mustangs lifted with paper tanks slung like extra lungs, climbing into a sky that looked innocent to anyone who had never fought inside it. German radar watched the approach like a heartbeat monitor, and controllers poured Fightergruppen toward the stream. The first fights erupted over the approaches. Then the combat climbed. A 357th flight slashed down on a rot, forming to make a head-on pass at a B-17 group and left one 109 tumbling in a shimmering ribbon of glycol. To the crews below, the ballet looked both orchestrated and chaotic. Mustangs arriving ahead of the bomber stream, then above, then dropping behind to catch latecomers, not tied to anyone's wingtip, but married to the mission. Keep the pressure on, keep the Luftwaffe reacting. Berlin was not sacred, it was simply far. The P-51 made far a solvable problem. Over radio, a waist gunner on a fortress keyed his mic and said it plain, "Little friends, over Berlin." In that phrase was relief and a door opening. It wasn't that the Luftwaffe couldn't fight, there it did, and with venom, but it could no longer pick the time and place. The Escort range had pulled the rug from under the tactic of husbanding fighters and pouncing on unescorted legs. Now, even at the heart of the Reich, the pounce often found a Mustang already falling on the pouncer. Losses continued. American cemeteries are proof of that, but something irreversible had shifted. Training pipelines in the Reich were clogged and under fuel ration. Replacements arrived with fewer hours. Veteran leaders were gone. Amid the spring raids, Doolittle formalized the doctrine. Escorts were to seek out and destroy the enemy air force. It was more than rhetoric. It set Mustangs free to prowl the routes, to smash forming interceptions, to lurk over fields and bounce takeoffs, to rake the dispersals when the time was right. It was brutal war, and it stripped the Luftwaffe of the initiative that had once made bomber crews whisper to each other at night that perhaps, just perhaps, daylight bombing was a fever dream. By summer, the invasion of Normandy gave the air war a surface to lean on. The same qualities that took the P-51 to Berlin let it range over the invasion armada, over the hedgerows, over the breakout, over the Seine. Packard Merlins sang from thousands of cylinders as they shepherded transports, strafed columns, and duelled the last teeth of the Jagdwaffe. The Luftwaffe tried to surge again over the Ardennes in December and on New Year's Day during Operation Bodenplatte, but those were flashes against a now dominant daylight enemy. When German pilots who survived described what broke them, they often mentioned not the raw performance numbers but the feeling. There was always a Mustang. At altitude in front of the bombers, above them when you tried to climb, behind you when you tried to disengage. It isn't that the Allison Mustang was a bad airplane. At low level it was superb. It's that the war the 8th Air Force needed to win was being fought where oxygen is thin and distances are long. The Merlin transplant turned a fast, handsome sprinter into a marathoner that could finish the fight at the top of the world. In the spring light of an English afternoon, a ground crewman leans against Old Crow, watching vapor fray from its exhaust stacks as the engine ticks cool. He has safety wired so many bolts he dreams in spiral steel. Somewhere in Germany, a factory foreman runs a hand across a machine bed that won't be rebuilt before the surrender. Somewhere above the North Sea, a pilot flying home for the last time of his tour looks down at his wing, at the faint fuel stain drying where a paper tank once hung, and understands the line between idea and victory. Sometimes it's a small group of people who decide to bolt the right heart into the right body and refuse to hear why it can't be done. The engine swap did not win the war alone. Nothing did. But as a hinge, it swung open the door that daylight bombing needed. Deep escort, high and fast, from English dawn to German noon to a bitter, grateful twilight over East Anglia. After that, the Luftwaffe did not fail. It ran out of fuel, of men, of time under a sky that now belonged to a predator built to breathe there.